He came out of the darkness. He wore a mask. And when he was done, Paul Heyman couldn't get up. Welcome back, wrestling fans, to Wrestling Stream, the channel that never misses a single moment of the action that shakes the squared circle to its very foundation. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because this is the kind of content we bring you every single week. Now, let's talk about what happened on Monday Night Raw, because the wrestling world woke up the next morning absolutely stunned. Trending on social media, fans debating in comment sections, legends reacting online, because what unfolded inside that arena was not just a segment, it was a statement. Seth Rollins, the visionary, the Monday Night Messiah, the most must-see superstar on the entire WWE roster, showed up to Raw wearing a mask. And by the time the night was over, Paul Heyman was lying on the mat, motionless. Take a deep breath, wrestling fans. We are breaking this entire thing down, from the very beginning. Now, before we get into what happened, we have to talk about the psychology behind this moment, because nothing Seth Rollins does is ever by accident. For weeks leading into this Raw, the wrestling universe had been buzzing. There were whispers. There were cryptic posts. There were shadows in the backstage corridors. Someone was watching. Someone was planning. And then, it began. A figure. A mask. Dark ring gear. Moving through the backstage area like a ghost. Cameras catching only glimpses. Production staff allegedly caught off guard. Nobody knew who it was. Nobody could confirm it. But if you've watched Seth Rollins long enough, and here at Wrestling Stream, we have, you know that when the visionary wants to make a point, he doesn't send a tweet. He doesn't cut a backstage promo in a hallway. He orchestrates. He performs. He turns Raw into his personal theater, and every single person in that building becomes part of his audience. The mask wasn't just a disguise. It was a message. Seth Rollins was telling everyone, management, the locker room, the fans, and most importantly Paul Heyman, that a new character had arrived. And this character had no rules. Because when you strip away the name, the reputation, the history, when you put on a mask, you become something else entirely. Something primal. Something that operates purely on instinct and intention. And Seth Rollins' intention on this night was destruction. Now let's talk about Paul Heyman. The wise man. The advocate. One of the greatest talkers, greatest minds, and greatest manipulators in the history of professional wrestling. Paul Heyman has spent decades standing ringside, whispering into the ears of champions, pulling strings from behind the curtain, and always, finding a way to stay protected. He is never alone. He is never exposed. He is never vulnerable. Or so he thought. Because in the days heading into this Raw, Paul Heyman had been doing what Paul Heyman does best, running his mouth. He had been cutting promos. He had been making promises on behalf of his clients. He had been dangling power in front of people like a man who truly believed he was untouchable. And maybe, for a long time, he was. But here's what Paul Heyman apparently forgot, or perhaps chose to ignore. Seth Rollins is not afraid of power. Seth Rollins has been the power. He's held gold. He's headlined WrestleManias. He has bled, suffered, lost, come back, lost again, and come back stronger. Every time the wrestling world counted him out, he came back wearing a new crown. And now, he was coming back wearing a mask. The tension between these two had been building for some time. A war of words, a war of respect, a war of who truly controls the narrative on Raw. Heyman believed he held the cards. He believed that his connections, his alliances, his reputation as a behind-the-scenes puppet master meant he was safe. But nobody is safe from a man with nothing left to prove and everything left to destroy. Now let's walk through the segment itself, and I want you to picture every single second of this, because the storytelling here was masterful. The show is rolling. The crowd is loud. And then, the lights. They changed. A hush fell over the arena. You could feel it through the screen. That electric silence that only happens when something is about to go very wrong for someone. The masked figure, Seth Rollins, emerged. Moving with purpose. No music initially. No fanfare. Just presence. Just intent. The mask covering his face, his eyes scanning the ring like a predator assessing its prey. Paul Heyman was in the ring. Microphone in hand. Mid-promo. And for just a moment, you could see it. That flicker of recognition. That split second where the wise man's famous brain tried to calculate who this was and what was about to happen. But it was too late. Seth slid into the ring. Smooth, calculated, electric, and the arena erupted. Because the crowd knew. Even through the mask, even through the silence, the energy of Seth Rollins is undeniable. There is no one else on this planet who moves like that, who commands a room like that. Heyman tried to talk his way out. Of course he did. That is what Paul Heyman does. He raised the microphone. He started speaking. Words tumbling out fast. Trying to negotiate. Trying to manipulate. Trying to survive on his tongue alone like he has 1,000 times before. But Seth Rollins was not there to negotiate. He was there to make a statement. What followed was a methodical, calculated, devastating assault. Seth didn't rush. He didn't panic. He moved like a man who had rehearsed this moment in his mind 100 times. Each move deliberate. Each action a chapter in the story he was writing in real time. The crowd was on their feet. Screaming. Some in disbelief. Some in absolute ecstasy. Because love him or hate him, when Seth Rollins decides to go to war, you watch. By the time Seth was done, Paul Heyman was down on the mat. Unresponsive. Medical personnel rushing to the ring. The masked Rollins standing over him, looking down, the arena buzzing with shock and electricity. And then, Seth Rollins slowly reached up, and removed the mask. He let the crowd see his face. Calm, collected, satisfied. He looked directly into the camera. Those eyes that have seen everything professional wrestling can throw at a man, and said nothing. He didn't need to say anything. The message had been delivered. Okay, Wrestling Stream Nation, let's put on our analytical hats for a second, because this is where it gets really interesting. What is WWE telling us with this angle? What is the story they're building? First, this is Seth Rollins reclaiming his identity as an agent of chaos. We've seen many versions of Seth over the years. The Shield Warrior. The Authority's Golden Boy. The Monday Night Messiah with his choir and his robes. The wild, colorful, unpredictable visionary. Each era, Seth has reinvented himself. But the mask strips away all of those identities and reminds us of something fundamental. Seth Rollins is, at his core, dangerous. Second, targeting Paul Heyman is not random. Paul Heyman is a symbol. He represents influence, power, and backstage authority. By going after Heyman, Seth is going after the machine. He is declaring himself ungovernable, unpredictable, outside of the political structures that govern the locker room. And third, and this might be the most important point, this sets up something massive down the road. Because Paul Heyman does not forget. Paul Heyman does not absorb a moment like this quietly. He reacts. He retaliates. And whoever he calls upon to be his instrument of revenge, that is going to be a collision course for the history books. WWE is planting seeds here, and if they water them correctly, the payoff could be one of the most compelling stories on Raw in years. Now let's talk about you, the wrestling community. Because Wrestling Stream is nothing without this incredible fanbase, and the reaction to this segment has been absolutely wild. Across fan forums and comment sections, the wrestling universe has been buzzing. Fans are calling this one of the most memorable Raw moments in recent memory. The consensus: Seth Rollins delivered one of his best performances in years, and that is saying something, because this man does not have a bad night. Some fans are calling it calculated genius. Others are saying it's the most unhinged we've ever seen Seth. A few old school fans are drawing comparisons to iconic heel turns of decades past, the kind of moment that defines a superstar's legacy. And Paul Heyman. Fans are already speculating wildly about what comes next for the wise man. Is this the end of an era for Heyman? Or is this the beginning of his most personal war yet? I want to know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments right now. Did you love this moment? Were you shocked? Do you think Seth Rollins made the right move? And most importantly, who do you think Paul Heyman is going to call for backup? Let's get this conversation going, Wrestling Stream Nation. So where does Seth Rollins go from here? That is the question that every wrestling fan, every analyst, every locker room member is asking tonight. The mask may be off, but the monster that wore it, that doesn't just disappear. Seth Rollins has awakened something inside himself. A more ruthless, more deliberate, more uncompromising version of the Visionary. And that version of Seth Rollins is absolutely terrifying for the rest of the RAW roster. Is a championship run on the horizon? Absolutely possible. Seth Rollins and Gold have always been a natural combination. But right now, the title might not even be the priority. Right now, Seth seems more interested in power, in control, in sending a message to everyone watching, at home and in that locker room, that he is not someone you cross. And if Heyman's allies come looking for revenge, Seth Rollins will be ready. Because the Visionary has seen this movie before. And he always rewrites the ending in his favor. And that, Wrestling Stream Nation, is the full breakdown of one of the most jaw-dropping, heart-pounding, unforgettable moments on Monday Night Raw in recent memory. Seth Rollins, the Masked Man, stood over Paul Heyman and declared himself the most dangerous force on the red brand. And after tonight, nobody is going to argue with him. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It truly helps this channel grow and keeps us bringing you the best wrestling content on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you never miss a single upload, and share this video with every wrestling fan you know. Drop a comment below, let me know your hottest take on this entire situation. I read every single one. Until next time, this is Wrestling Stream, reminding you that in professional wrestling, anything can happen, and usually does. Stay passionate, stay loud, and never stop watching. See you next time. Men Wrestling Fire.